When Lewis Hawk chased after his true love to go abroad, I begged him not to leave, but he didn't even turn his head. A year later, I got married and Lewis flew back. When he saw my wedding ring, the usually arrogant young master of the Hawk family broke down. He forced a smile and said, "Ivy, do you want to take off this ring yourself or do you want me to help you do this?" His voice trembled as he spoke. "If you want a ring, I can buy it for you. As you throw this one away, please." Ding! webnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I didn't invite many people to my wedding, just a dozen or so relatives and friends who had a meal together. My husband took good care of me and didn't let me get tired. He entertained the guests himself, allowing me to chat with my best friend Sadie. When Sadie saw me getting married, she felt emotional. "I thought you would wait for Lewis forever." I smiled and lowered my head. "I used to think so too." She asked, "Does Lewis know that you're married?" I shook my head. "He doesn't know. There's no need for him to know." She paused. "I heard that Lewis booked a ticket like crazy last night and flew back from the abroad overnight." I remained silent. He was so anxious, perhaps because Maya had run away again. Just like before, she got angry with Lewis and ran away to the abroad. Lewis booked the plane ticket in front of me to chase after her. I was having my period at that time and I felt cold even wrapped in a blanket. I trembled as I sat in front of him, watching his slender fingers decisively tapping on the phone, booking a ticket for that evening. I clenched my teeth, still wanting to keep him. "Lewis, can't you stay?" Lewis looked at me with his bright eyes and smiled casually. "You stay at home obediently, and I'll bring you a gift when I come back." He lifted my chin and lightly pecked my lips, tucking me in the blanket. "Do you want a necklace or a bracelet?" I didn't say anything. Lewis liked to give jewelry as gifts. He had given me many, but not a single ring. He didn't give many gifts to Maya, but every time it was a ring. I took a deep breath and looked at his handsome face with cold, pale skin, trying to keep him once again. "Can't you really stay?" The smile at the corner of Lewis's mouth faded a bit, and he patted my head. "You know what our relationship is." I stood still, speechless. I was the one who actively pursued Lewis back. He had only one condition: our relationship couldn't be made public, especially in front of Maya. In other words, I was just a backup. I didn't have the right to stop him at all. Even though we were living together and he had taken me to family gatherings. Seeing that I had stopped talking, Lewis smiled and kissed my forehead. "Good girl, I'll bring you a gift when I come back." I lowered my head. "When will you come back?" He stood up and leisurely buttoned his shirt. "A few days, probably." At that time, he probably didn't expect that this time Maya wasn't going abroad to relax, but to study, which resulted in him staying for a year as well. I sighed as I watched Lewis's tall and straight figure leave. As if sensing my unhappiness, Lewis turned back. "Think about what I can do for you before going abroad. I'll do my best to fulfill it." I looked at his face and thought for a moment. "Can you help me find someone named Byron? He's a war journalist." Lewis's face turned serious. "What's your relationship with him? If you can't explain clearly, I won't help you." I pursed my lips. "He's my brother. My aunt's son." Lewis's expression relaxed a bit and he nodded. "Wait for my message." He turned and left. I watched his figure disappear and took out a photo from my wallet. The photo was of a slim and handsome man who looked very similar to Lewis Hawk. I caressed the photo. "Lewis Hawk is really forgetful." I told him that I grew up in an orphanage, so where did I get an aunt? I also told him that there was a brother in the orphanage who always took care of me, and we grew up together. But he forgot after hearing it. He also never doubted why I loved looking at his face so much. I only love his face. Lewis Hawk really loves Maya. Even though Maya has been indecisive for so many years and refuses to settle down, he still loves her willingly. And I truly love Lewis. Love his face. He has a face similar to Byron's. I have always been grateful to Lewis. He saved me from despair. When I met him, I had already lost contact with Byron for 3 years. Many people said that Byron was dead. I felt like a walking corpse, devoid of life. Until I saw Lewis Hawk, my junior by 1 year. When I saw his face, so similar to Byron's, I cried. I tried my best to get close to Lewis, to treat him unconditionally well. Everyone knows that I am Louis's shadow, responsible for carrying his bags, fetching his coat, buying things for him, accompanying him when he argues with Maya, and helping him back when he's drunk. Perhaps I was so good to him that he couldn't ignore me anymore. So one night, after he had a fight with Maya and got drunk, he pulled me into his embrace. "Do you like me?" I looked at his thin and handsome face and nodded. From that day on, I became Louis's secret girlfriend. If being a backup counts as being a girlfriend. This arrangement lasted for several years. While Louis and Maya couldn't be together, he and I ended up living together. Sometimes, Louis would hold me and sigh. "Ivy, you're the best woman to me. You don't even care about my money." I smiled. "If you want to give me money, I won't refuse. But you never spend it." Louis's bright phoenix eyes stared at me. "You don't spend my money, you don't wear the jewelry I buy. And you don't force me to make our relationship public," he said. "Sometimes, I even feel like you're treating me as a backup too." I playfully touched his nose and buried myself in his embrace. Whether he's a backup or not doesn't matter. We are not plants. We have already spent 6 years together. These 6 years are important to me. But Louis doesn't see it that way. He still loves Maya so much. When Maya calls him late at night, drunk, Louis will still immediately goes to pick her up. Before, Louis would leave without explaining anything to me. But later, he started explaining and had a guilty expression on his face. I thought it meant that he saw me differently in his heart. But I misunderstood. He still went after Maya to abroad and left without giving me any chance to hold on to him. He was gone for a whole year. Actually, Louis came back once during that time. He was drunk and asked me to pick him up. When I arrived to pick him up, he was sitting in a private room in a nightclub, making a video call with Maya. When he saw me, he waved at me and said, "Ivy, come here." He introduced me to Maya. "Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend for the past 6 years, Ivy." Maya still had a cold expression on her face. But her eyes swept over me and lingered on my face for a few seconds. Then she smiled. "Louis, have you changed your mind?" Louis also smiled. "Yeah. Why should I give up my gentle and virtuous girlfriend and keep trying to please you, even though you always treat me coldly?" Maya looked at Louis hugging me and asked how long we had been together. I honestly answered, 6 years. Maya ended the video call. The usually proud Maya didn't even say goodbye. Louis held my hand tightly and suddenly paused. That night, Louis was originally sleeping while holding me. But he received a phone call midway through, and when he came back, he kissed me non-stop and stayed up all night, watching me. In the morning, his voice hoarse, he said, "Ivy, our relationship has reached its end." I actually didn't sleep all night. I guessed it. I heard Louis answer that phone call. Maya casually asked him to break up, saying that as long as he broke up with me, she would immediately be with him. I knew I wasn't important to Maya. I nodded, not wanting to make a scene. I turned away and wiped the corners of my eyes. Louis held me tightly from behind, so tight that I couldn't breathe. He whispered in my ear, "There is news about your aunt's son. He is not dead, he just has lost his memory. He is abroad." I froze. I turned around. "Can you help me bring him back?" With a final kiss on my lips, Louis said, "I can. It's my debt to you." After saying that, he took a flight to be with Maya. As for me, a few days later, I saw Byron. He was being treated in the best hospital, with the best specialists. Soon, his memory returned and he remembered me. Byron had lost his memory because he was injured while saving a child in a bombing area. When he woke up, he immediately hugged me. His gentle voice echoed in my ear. "I wasn't by your side for 10 years and you suffered." Tears flowed from my eyes. My empty heart was quietly filled at that moment. It has been 10 years since Byron and I missed each other, and neither of us wants to delay another 10 years. We quickly got engaged. Byron also asked me if I had fallen in love with someone else during these 10 years. He advised me not to make a decision that I would regret due to a momentary impulse. The face of Louis Hawke flickered vaguely in my mind, but it disappeared in an instant. I shook my head and smiled, saying no. I gently touched the scar that Byron had left while saving children in the war zone and repeated, no. In fact, before Byron asked me, I had dreamt of Louis several times. In those dreams, Louis looked at me coldly and told me not to delude myself. When I think of him, my heart still aches. But as time passed, I never dreamt of Louis again. Those 6 years seemed to have vanished with the wind. My best friend, Sadie, sometimes asks me if I ever think of Louis. I remained silent for a few seconds and shook my head. I hope he and Maya can be together, I said. It's best if we forget each other. At least I sincerely forgot about him and left him behind in my mind. But a few days later, while having dinner with Byron, we encountered one of Louis's classmates. He came up from a distance and greeted, "Hey, why didn't you call me when you returned to the country?" After a few steps, he stopped, his face filled with astonishment. Byron and Louis looked very similar, but there was a scar on Byron's forehead from the war zone. Their temperament was completely different as well. He didn't have Louis's carefree and idle manner. Byron appeared more resolute and composed. The classmate looked at Byron, then looked at me with suspicion. "Ivy, this?" He pondered for a moment. "Are you cheating on Louis?" I shook my head. "We broke up." The classmate was even more surprised. "Didn't Louis say you were still waiting obediently for him?" I interrupted him. "This is my fiancé, and we will be getting married soon." He was dumbfounded. Looking at the tightly held hands of Byron and me, he turned around and hurriedly walked away, making a phone call as he walked. I looked up to explain to Byron, but before I could say anything, Byron laughed. "It's all in the past, why bother mentioning it?" He helped me fix my hair. "I can't expect you to wait for me for 10 years just because I disappeared for 10 years. My eyes welled up, and suddenly I felt a deep sense of grievance. During those initial 3 years when I couldn't find Byron, I held onto my phone every day, waiting for a call. The phone was never turned off, and I would startle at the sound of an unknown number ringing. In the first year, I hoped to receive a call telling me that Byron was only injured and would return to the country soon. In the second year, I hoped to hear that Byron was still alive. In the third year, I started to fear receiving phone calls, but I had no choice but to answer them. When Louis appeared, I was officially diagnosed with severe anxiety and panic disorder. His face was the last straw that kept me going. When I was Louis's backup, I was not without grievances, but I truly couldn't let go of that face. Only by looking at him could I find the strength to live on. So I don't know if I love Louis or not. But I am grateful to him, grateful to the point that he made everyone mock me as a backup, yet I still enjoyed it. During these 6 years, in my eyes, Louis was a good person, a person who saved me from the depths of despair. I thought that he would have a good impression of me as well, at least I would be considered sensible. But I didn't expect that one day, he would appear again and grit his teeth and curse me as a liar. It was late at night when Louis called me. I quietly got up, not wanting to wake up Byron. I thought he wanted to take back the many things left with me. But as soon as I answered, he spoke harshly, as if he wanted to bite me into pieces, and said one word through gritted teeth: "Liar." His voice was hoarse and deep. "Ivy, you're a liar. You said he's your aunt's son, but you lied to me." He no longer had the careless and frivolous attitude. He suppressed his anger, and there was even a hint of grievance in his voice. Grievance like that of a child. I lowered my head and sighed. "I'm sorry." I apologized as if it were second nature. For the past 6 years, I had been apologizing to him like this. There were many reasons. Like not staring at him in front of Maya, which would make Maya unhappy. Like not trying to hold his hand in front of Maya's classmates. Like not calling him randomly while he was having a meal with Maya. Every time, I would apologize, staring at that face, and obediently say sorry. At first, Louis would hesitate and pat my head, as if patting a child. "It's okay if you change it next time." Then he would hold his cheek and smile at me. "You're so cute when you apologize." And later, he stopped giving me so many rules. But my instinct to apologize hadn't changed, and I immediately blurted out, "I'm sorry." Louis paused, but still gritted his teeth. "Apologizing this time won't work either, Ivy. I'm really angry. I should have known and let your lover stay in the war zone for a lifetime. Why did I travel all this way just to wear a cuckold's hat?" I grew cold, but he seemed oblivious and kept questioning me. "Did he touch you? Ivy, speak up. Did he touch you?" I interrupted his impatient voice. "Louis, stop talking about him like this. He's important to me." There was suddenly silence on the other end of the phone. After a while, I heard the sound of something breaking. Louis gritted his teeth and spoke with a smile, one word at a time. "Ivy, you've never said that I'm important to you." He said, "Remember, I didn't say you could leave, so you're still mine. I'm not yours." I furrowed my brows and corrected him. "We haven't had any relationship since you went to abroad to find Maya." Louis fell silent for a while, then asked softly, "So you're doing this to get back at me, right?" His tone seemed more determined. "If you're with him to spite me, right? If I gave you a chance to regret." I furrowed my brows even more. "Louis Hawk, stop causing a scene. You and Maya finally got together, so live happily." Louis didn't say anything. His breathing was heavy and rapid. After a while, he didn't say anything and hung up the phone. I listened to the busy tone on the phone and sighed. Louis still hadn't changed. As long as Maya was mentioned, his rationality returned. In the past, when he got drunk, he would call me in the middle of the night and ask me to pick him up. I hurriedly went out wearing pajamas and a coat, and found him drunk outside the bar. It was a cold weather, and my hands were so cold they were numb, but he refused to go back. His friends were helpless and apologized to me, then made a video call to Maya. "I want Maya to see what a mess you look like." Suddenly, Louis stood up straight, sober as if he hadn't drunk at all, and opened the car door by himself. I and his friend stood outside the car, staring at each other. His friend was full of embarrassment and sympathy. "I'm sorry, I couldn't do anything. Only Maya can make him listen." I shook my head. "It's okay, I don't mind." That day, I stayed up all night making sobering soup for Louis and taking care of him. And he held on to me and called for Maya, all night long. There was a voice in my heart that kept asking me, "Ivy, do you really not mind? Then why are your hands and feet so cold?" I sighed and forced myself to detach from the memories, not to think about them anymore. I looked at the bedroom. There was the man I loved the most. It didn't matter what happened in the past, what mattered was that now. I didn't care about him anymore. Byron and I began preparing for our wedding. I went to try on wedding dresses and received several calls from Louis. I refused them all. But my phone kept vibrating nonstop. It was all messages from Louis. He had never sent me so many messages in a month before. "Ivy, I haven't let you go yet. Ivy, you will regret it. What are you doing? Reply. You never used to take this long to reply." The sound of the incoming messages on my phone was so noisy that I couldn't stand it. I grabbed my phone in the fitting room and hurriedly replied to him. "I'm trying on wedding dresses, stop messaging me." The phone was briefly quiet for a moment. Then it started vibrating like crazy again, without stopping for a second, as if the person on the other end had gone mad. Unable to bear it any longer, I answered the call. "Louis Hawk, if you keep acting like this, we can't even be friends." But he ignored my words and just kept asking me in a series. "Is he that good to you? Ivy, marriage and love are two different things." He took a deep breath. "Ivy, listen to me, have your parents agreed to your marriage? Why don't you wait for me to go back and talk to them?" I calmly interrupted him. "Louis, stop making a scene." It quieted down on the other end. I said quietly, "Louis, I'm really getting married. He and I have grown up together since childhood. We understand each other and share the same feelings." Louis wanted to say something else, but I interrupted him again. "Even Maya won't be happy if you act like this." He didn't say anything, his breathing no longer steady. I sighed. "I've told you before, I grew up in an orphanage. I don't have parents. Why do you always forget that?" After saying that, I hung up. Louis didn't call again. And Byron had been patiently waiting outside the fitting room, not asking why I took so long. When I came out, he hugged me tightly, unwilling to let go. "Ivy, thank you for loving me." I hugged him back and said, "Thank you too." We both grew up in an orphanage, so we cherished every bit of goodness we received from each other and were grateful beyond words. Unlike Louis Hawk, who was used to getting whatever he wanted, his obedient ex-girlfriend suddenly seamlessly transitioned into getting married, which was unacceptable to him for a while. It was inevitable for him to go crazy. But I believe that time will heal everything. Eventually, he will let go of his unwillingness and look forward. But I overestimated Louis's capacity to accept this fact. A few days later, when I was about to have my wedding and needed beauty sleep every day, Louis called me late at night. He seemed to have been drinking. Ivy, you're really heartless. I was already very impatient and was planning to block him. He spoke slowly, his voice hoarse and low. At that time, why didn't I think about taking a look at his photo? Just one glance, and I would have known something was wrong. He sounded both aggrieved and angry. But I didn't even take a look. I even brought him back from the war zone, cured him, and sent him to you. How did I only think of looking at the photo now? I've cuckolded myself. Louis's voice trembled with anger. He lowered his voice, and I could tell he was trying hard to control his emotions, but he couldn't stop the trembling in his voice. Ivy, did you treat me as his substitute? I fell silent. He fell silent too. After a while, he gritted his teeth and shouted, "Say something, why aren't you saying anything?" But suddenly, I remembered what happened back then. When Maya had another pursuer, Louis posted a picture of my silhouette on his social media. I was wearing the latest luxury brand dress that Maya wanted at the time. That was the only time I wore the clothes Louis bought for me. Normally, I wouldn't even take off the tags from the clothes he bought for me and would just put them directly in the closet. But that day, Louis insisted that I wear the dress and took a picture of me. That was the first time he posted me on his social media, and many people liked it. Many people in the comments asked who I was. Louis held me and showed it to me, casually saying, "Honey, they're all asking about you." When Louis was in a good mood, he would call me honey. He twirled my hair around his finger. "I call you my girlfriend, and my buddies are so jealous." I smiled, but my eyes caught a new comment from Maya. "I want to go to the music festival. Will you come?" After a while, Louis glanced at his phone and paused for a moment. He pocketed his phone as if nothing had happened and took out his credit card. "Go buy a few bags." Then he stood up, put on his coat, and was about to leave. I watched his figure walking towards the door and, almost involuntarily, stopped him. "Louis, can you not go out?" Louis held onto the doorknob, hesitated for a moment, and turned to smile at me. "You feel lonely? Then wander around a bit more, buy a few more clothes, a few more sets of jewelry." He turned around to close the door, but just as the door was closing, he suddenly said, "I'll be back soon, honey." I watched as the door slowly closed, lowered my head, not knowing what I was feeling. By then, we had already gone from university to work, and Louis had gone from calling me by my name to calling me his honey. To some extent, I still felt different about him in my heart. I looked at the credit card on the coffee table for a long time and put it in the drawer without touching it again. I never had any thoughts about him again. After a few days, Louis came back. That post with me in it had been deleted, I don't know when. Friends called him and asked why he deleted his girlfriend's photo, and he nonchalantly replied, "Oh, that was just a girl I saw on the street. I thought she looked pretty, so I took a picture. If I don't delete it, you guys might misunderstand our relationship." At that moment, I was in his arms, motionless and obedient. He hung up the phone and kissed my ear. "Ivy, you're so good." He thought for a moment and still posted my photo on his social media, but set it to be visible only to himself. Louis touched my hair. "Ivy, you're so beautiful, I won't let others see." I looked at his face, smiled without saying a word, and felt no ripples in my heart. Just like that credit card that had been sealed in the drawer. At that time, I never complained to him even once. Love is like drinking water, only you know whether it is hot or cold. But now Louis was full of unwillingness. "Ivy, say something. Am I really just his substitute?" I sighed and decided to lay some things out. "And what about me, Louis? What am I in these 6 years?" Louis paused. I continued, "In these 6 years, I never once complained in front of you." "Louis, it's only been a few days, and you can't take it anymore?" Louis's breathing sounded chaotic. I sighed again, hung up the phone, and blocked Louis's number completely. And with those 6 years, bid a complete farewell. Byron and I obtained our marriage certificate and held the wedding banquet all in one go. I carefully arranged everything, picked out a wedding gown, and gave myself a dreamy wedding. From now on, I am no longer alone. I have my own family and loved ones. But during the wedding, my best friend Sadie told me that Louis had rushed back overnight, as if he had gone mad and booked a ticket. I didn't really believe it. After all, he had finally gotten together with Maya after so much difficulty. He wouldn't be impulsive enough to leave Maya and return to the country. But I never expected that he would actually appear in front of me. The image of Louis in my mind was tall, handsome, and exuded an air of elegance. But the current Louis had a pale complexion and looked exhausted. He held a jewelry box in his hand and silently watched me and my husband, Byron. Rather than looking at me, he seemed to be looking at Byron. I was startled by his presence. Louis glanced at Byron, then looked at me and beckoned with his finger. Just as Byron went to entertain his colleagues, I was afraid that Louis would cause trouble, so I went to find him and pleaded with him in a gentle and soft voice. "Don't cause any trouble. This wedding is too important to me. I don't want anything to go wrong." Louis's face turned grim. Even though I was pleading with him, it seemed like I had angered him. He glanced at Byron, who was in the distance. "Ivy, between the two of us, who resembles whom?" I was taken aback and didn't quite understand what he meant. Louis asked again. "Honey, between him and me, who looks more like a substitute?" He called me his honey, as if we were still together. But in the past, he only called me his honey when he was in a good mood, and his good mood was always related to Maya. I would rather he call me Ivy with my full name. I turned cold and said, "Louis, I am not your honey." I pointed at Byron and continued, "I am his wife, the kind with a marriage certificate." Louis stared at me in silence, his face turning ashen. I regretted speaking to him in that way. He was the young master of the Hawk family, and being confronted like this might lead him to do something embarrassing out of willfulness. I stood frozen in place, thinking about how to get rid of this troublemaker, when I heard Byron calling me. I was filled with anxiety but dared not show it. I furrowed my brows, and in my heart, all I could think of was Louis's icy expression and the uncertainty of my own future wedding. It seemed like Byron didn't notice anything and embraced me, gently soothing my uneasiness. "Don't wander off. Don't make it hard for me to find you." He patted my shoulder and said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." I leaned against Byron's chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. The uneasiness in my heart suddenly disappeared, and I smiled and nodded, "Okay." Byron pecked my lips, and I hugged him back, returning the kiss. As long as Byron was with me, it didn't matter whether the wedding went smoothly or not. With Byron by my side, I feared nothing. We kissed passionately and wholeheartedly. When we broke the kiss, I realized that Louis was nowhere to be seen. There was no scene that I had anticipated. He quietly left. Sadie said that Louis left in a hurry, as if he was escaping from a fierce beast. And I received a text message from an unfamiliar number on my phone. UV never smiled at me like that before. Sadie was still beside me, saying, "Louis seems to be deeply affected. I've never seen him in such a sorry state. He stumbled a bit when he left. What's wrong with him?" I shook my head and remained silent. I held Byron's hand tightly and didn't want to let go. We relied on each other when we were young, pledged our hearts to each other when we were young, and now we finally became a married couple. What happened to others didn't matter. What mattered was that I was with the person I loved. When Louis left, he entrusted Sadie to give me the ring. Sadie sneered, "Now you know to buy a ring, but why didn't you buy it for Ivy before?" Sadie truly didn't like Louis. When Louis and I were together, Sadie was always disappointed with me, but she couldn't do anything about me being with Louis. Louis was generous towards me, gifting me different pieces of jewelry like necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and brooches. But he never gave me a ring. During a meal together, Sadie jokingly asked Louis when he would give me a ring. Louis made a phone call, and shortly after, the driver delivered a jade necklace to me. Sadie trembled with anger. I said, "A ring? Ivy has been with you for so many years. Isn't she worth a ring?" Louis rested his hand on the back of my chair. A gesture of control. He crossed his legs and acted nonchalant. "She will get it sooner or later. Why are you in such a hurry?" He tilted my chin and made a promise with a smile. "Within 10 years, I will put a ring on your finger." I smiled and lowered my head, saying nothing. At that moment, I suddenly missed Byron. Byron wouldn't make such a playful promise to me. Even though their faces resembled each other, they were not the same person, and fortunately, they weren't. After that meal, I wanted to distance myself from Louis. I stopped answering his calls, ignored his messages, changed the password on my apartment door, and refused to go to his place. But after a few days, Louis had a stomachache. He sent me a video, his face pale and haggard. Suddenly, I remembered how worn out Byron looked before he went missing in the war zone. I couldn't control myself, and despite Sadie's exasperated sigh, I went to see Louis. His house was filled with empty bottles. During the week I avoided him, he must have consumed countless drinks. I sighed and cleaned his house, made porridge, did laundry, and peeled apples, taking care of him to help him recover. Louis held my hand. "Don't hide from me. Ivy, I didn't lie to you. I will really buy you a ring within 10 years. He gestured, a diamond ring this big. I laughed. "Then why not now?" He fell silent. After a while, he said softly, "I have an obsession to resolve right now." He pulled me closer to him, and we lay down together, listening to his rapid heartbeat. "Ivy, I didn't lie to you. Wait for me for 10 years. I looked at his face and remained silent. Louis held me tighter, afraid that I would run away. "All right then, 10 years. I rested my face against his sturdy chest, listening to his heartbeat. The heartbeat never lies. Now, 10 years later, on my wedding night, I didn't get much sleep with Byron. The next morning, while Byron was still asleep, I blushed and went downstairs to throw away the used condom. As soon as I got downstairs, I saw Louis. He was standing next to a Ferrari, with a stubble on his chin, bloodshot eyes, and cigarette butts all over the ground. I had no idea how many cigarettes he had smoked. He glanced at the transparent garbage bag in my hand, turned his face away so he wouldn't look at it. His voice was hoarse and almost inaudible. "Ivy, I waited all night, watching your lights go out." His former pride was nowhere to be found. His gaze avoided the garbage bag but couldn't avoid the red marks on my neck. Like a precious treasure lost, the proud young master of the Hawk family, Louis Hawk, stared at my neck, his eyes turning red. His voice hoarse and desperate. "Ivy, I'm sick, I feel terrible." In the past, if he said that, I would immediately put everything aside to take care of him. Cooking for him, peeling apples, feeding him medicine, taking his temperature. But now, all I could say was, "Buy some medicine for yourself." Louis's body trembled, and his eyes turned even redder. With his wealthy background, his parents were afraid he would be kidnapped, so they sent him to learn martial arts from a young age. He had also experienced hardships and injuries through fights and training. What he was most proud of was being the only son of a wealthy family, yet he never acted spoiled. But now, a tear fell from his eyes, and he didn't even wipe it away, just kept looking at me. "Ivy, when I saw you smiling at Byron, I thought about a lot of things. I can treat you the same way he does." He closed his eyes, clenched his teeth, as if trying to say something unspeakable. "Even if I'm just a substitute, can't a substitute become the real one too? Ivy, I can't accept you being like this with someone else." I was speechless and shook my right hand. There was a wedding ring on my finger. The diamond was not big, but it was carefully designed and customized. Louis's face turned even paler. "Ivy, take it off. Do you want to take off this ring yourself, or do you want me to help you do this?" He pleaded in a hoarse voice. "If you want a ring, I'll buy you one, any size you want. Just throw it away, please." I shook my head. "No, Louis, this is my wedding ring." I looked down at the ring. "Byron bought it for me, and I love it." Louis choked up. "Don't say that, Ivy, it hurts me. It really hurts." I sighed. I didn't have any resentment towards Louis. After all, it was his face that helped me through the most difficult period of my life. I also wanted Louis to let go of the past and look forward. I carefully considered how to persuade him. But when I looked up at him, I saw a surprising figure. Maya had arrived. She was always exquisite and beautiful, but her face looked terrible. She looked at me in disbelief, and then at Louis. "Louis, others told me, and I didn't believe it. You broke up with me in the middle of the night and booked a ticket back to the country, all because of her?" She looked at the wedding ring on my hand, as if feeling humiliated. "She's so plain looking, and yet she got married. You broke up with me for her?" Maya looked very angry. In the past, whenever Maya got angry, Louis would chase after her halfway across the world. But now, he didn't even turn his head, as if he hadn't seen her at all. He said to me, "Ivy, I can't live without you, really. I can't sleep, I haven't slept much for several days." He looked truly haggard. "Will you come back, Ivy, my honey?" I'll change everything, I won't even look at another woman again." His voice was hoarse and almost inaudible. A substitute can become the real one, and even marriages can end. "I will really change, please." I opened my mouth, but couldn't find the words to say. Shocked by what I was hearing. I had never seen Louis like this before. Never. The proud young master of the Hawk family, even after so many years of ups and downs with Maya, had never pleaded like this. Maya was also stunned. Her face turned red and then white, and finally she said, "Don't regret it. I won't give you a second chance." Then she turned and ran away crying. Louis didn't even look back. I reminded him Maya really left. But Louis reached out and pulled me towards him. "I didn't plan to stay with her for long. She's just an obsession of mine. When it comes to marriage, there's no one in my mind except you." "Louis," I rubbed my temples and interrupted him. I was afraid that Byron would wake up and not find me, so I decided to lay everything out. "I haven't always seen you as a substitute. I've had feelings for you too." How could I not have feelings? 6 years of being close, of our skin touching, how could I not have feelings? Louis's eyes lit up. I sighed, "But you pushed me away, Louis, don't you remember? Every time I started to have feelings for you, you always chose Maya without hesitation." I smiled bitterly. "You were the one who pushed me away. You constantly reminded me that Byron would never treat me like that you couldn't replace Byron." The light in Louis's eyes dimmed. He still struggled and said, "I can change, Ivy, I can change." I shook my head and interrupted him. "Louis, you don't really love me. You just can't accept that someone doesn't love you. It was Maya before, and now it's me." I pointed to my heart. "But I can't be entangled with you anymore. The one who belongs here now is my husband, there's no place for you anymore." The remaining light in Louis's eyes suddenly went out. I didn't say anything else, I just walked past him and went home. When I reached the entrance of the building, I suddenly saw Byron standing there quietly, not knowing how long he had been awake. I panicked. "You heard everything?" Byron reached out and embraced me. "Don't panic." He patted my back. "Louis called me and told me about your situation, asking me to give you to him." "What did you say?" I looked up in astonishment and asked. "I gave him twice the amount of money he spent on treating me. And I also gave him a wedding invitation." "Oh." I couldn't find the words to say. I wondered how Louis found out about our wedding hotel. Byron, he understood how to kill someone emotionally. I don't know when Louis left. I didn't have time to care either. I was busy preparing for the honeymoon with Byron. On a beautiful afternoon, Byron and I arrived at a seaside island for our honeymoon. Blue sky, white clouds, turquoise sea, and golden sand. A gentle breeze blew as Byron and I leisurely closed our eyes, basking in the sunlight by the sea. We stayed there until evening and returned to the wooden cabin by the beach. I had told Louis a few years ago that I wanted to stay in this wooden cabin, but I never had the time. Later, when Byron heard me mention it, he immediately booked the room and decided to bring me here for our honeymoon. I stood by the window of the cabin, wanting to look at the sea at night. However, I noticed a familiar figure sitting on the beach in front of the neighboring cabin, drinking beer. He was all alone, surrounded by empty bottles. I pursed my lips and closed the window. Before I could even draw the curtains, Byron came over and embraced me, kissing me passionately. From the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of Louis's lonely figure on the beach, continuously tilting his head back to drink, while I was carried away by Byron to the bedroom. In the early morning, I got up to drink water and glanced over, surprised to see Louis still on the beach, motionless. I was startled and quickly ran out, squatting down to check his breathing. Thankfully, he was still breathing. I patted my chest, about to leave, when Louis suddenly grabbed me and opened his eyes. Those once spirited eyes were now filled with drunkenness and helplessness. In the morning sunlight, he silently stared at me. In a hoarse voice, he pleaded, "Ivy, can I hug you again? Just one hug. Just one." I shook my head, pulled away, and stood up. "I'm married, Louis." Louis, heavily intoxicated, seemed to be crying and laughing at the same time. His voice mixed with the sound of the rising tide. "But I really can't let go of you, Ivy. My feelings for you are not just unrequited love, but love that I didn't even realize myself. Ivy, my honey, can you give me another chance?" I'll cherish it for the rest of my life. I paused for a moment, then walked back. This constant entanglement was not a solution. It was better to let him completely give up. By walking back, I seemed to have given Louis hope. He looked at me with hope and anticipation. But I lowered my head, took out my phone, and showed him a photo in silence. It was a picture of a positive pregnancy test. "I'm pregnant, Louis." Louis was stunned. After a few seconds, he forcefully pushed away the phone, as if pushing away a venomous snake, not wanting to look at it anymore. He couldn't utter a word. I stood up, looking down at him, and returned his breakup words to him, unchanged. "Our relationship have reached the end." After saying that, I walked back to the wooden cabin. Behind me, there was complete silence. Later, I completely forgot about Louis. I was living a lively and happy life with Byron, and I had almost forgotten about what happened before. 10 months later, I gave birth to a daughter. During the 100th birthday celebration of our child, Byron proudly carried our daughter around, his smile stretching from ear to ear. I sat on the side, watching Byron and our daughter, feeling warm and content in my heart. A waiter from the banquet hall hurried over and delivered an exquisite gift box. "Hello, this was just sent by a gentleman," the waiter said. I wondered if it was a centennial gift sent by one of Byron's friends, so I thanked the waiter and opened the box to take a look. Inside, there were two things. One was a golden lock that shone brightly. The other was a large diamond ring. I recognized that ring. Sadie leaned over to take a look and exclaimed, "I sent this the ring that Louis gave you when you got married? He asked me to pass it on to you, and you didn't want it and sent it back to Louis again." I was stunned, not knowing what to say. After a while, I reacted and grabbed the gift box, rushing out. But I was still too late. I saw the slender figure of Louis getting into his familiar sports car, the engine roaring as he drove away. Sadie accompanied me as we chased after him, sighing. "If he had been like this earlier, the two of you wouldn't have." I shook my head and smiled. "What are you thinking? There's no use in thinking about what ifs and regrets. Missed opportunities were just that, missed opportunities. There are no what ifs and no regrets." I returned to the banquet hall and looked at my husband and daughter, feeling a deep sense of appreciation. Byron came over and hugged me, asking, "Is there something on my face? Why do you keep staring at me?" I shook my head and nestled into his embrace. "I'm just grateful that I didn't miss out on you." "Not missing out, that's my true happiness."